The Pixel 10 Pro XL with Tensor G5 is finally here. We waited years for Google's first ever 3nm chipset built by TSMC, hoping for the same performance and battery life offered by Samsung and Apple. So the question is, did it finally happen, or Tensor G5 is just another subpar chipset? To answer this question, let's do a heavy workload test. In this video, I will compare Google's latest flagship, the Pixel 10 Pro XL, versus the 16 Pro Max and the S25 Ultra. But before starting, let's run some benchmarking to see how it stacks against the competition. Starting with Geekbench 6, the numbers are disappointing in comparison. It scored 6064 in the multi-core and 2295 in the single-core. The Snapdragon 8 Elite of the S25 Ultra, on the other hand, scored 9491 and 3003 respectively, while the 16 Pro Max scored 8841 in the multi-core and 3519 in the single-core. So far, TSMC's 3nm fabrication doesn't seem to put Tensor G5 on par with other flagships. Moving to 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme, the 10 Pro XL FPS was noticeably lower than the other two phones while running the test, so let's fast forward to the results. Again, another disappointing number. The 10 Pro XL only scored 2,924 points with an average FPS of 17.51 and a maximum of 20 FPS. In contrast, the S25 Ultra almost doubled that number, with a score of 5,637, an average of 33.76 FPS and a maximum of 47. The 16 Pro Max is somewhere in between with a score of 4,229, 25.3 average FPS and a maximum of 35. So enough with the numbers and let's prepare for the test. If you are new here, this test puts the phones under heavy workload by running 4 heavy tasks simultaneously for 30 minutes as shown now on the screen. The phone that finishes the test without any crashes or thermal warning wins. And now let's set the rules. The 16 Pro Max is running iOS 26 Beta 8. Yes, I know it's a beta software, but the 16 Pro Max used to win this test every single time with iOS 18. So I wanted to know if iOS 26 will be able to deliver the same results. Plus, Beta 8 is fairly stable based on my usage. Similarly, the S25 Ultra is running One UI 8 Beta 6, which is very stable as well. But the difference here is the S25 Ultra never won this test with One UI 7. So let's see if One UI 8 will do the trick, and let me tell you that the results will shock you. Lastly, the 10 Pro XL is running the latest stable software version available at the time of filming this video. Other than this, all phones are using cellular data with 5G set to auto. The screen resolutions on the Pixel and the Galaxy are maxed out, while the 16 Pro Max resolution is fixed. All phones are set to 120Hz refresh rate, and the screen brightness is calibrated on the same light meter. And now let's begin. All phones started with 80% battery, and the initial temperatures from left to right are 29.5 degrees Celsius, 27.6 and 28.4, with no apps running in the background. I will start by initiating a Microsoft Teams meeting with the screen sharing enabled. You can see the screen sharing performance of each one on the secondary phone. Then I will play a 2160p video on YouTube in picture-in-picture view, then start the navigation to Dubai Mall in Google Maps, and finally play Asphalt Unite. Before starting the stopwatch, let me show you that the game is set to 60 FPS on all phones and the graphics are maxed out. Now it's time to start and let's see what's gonna happen. It seems like the 16 Pro Max was the first to drop the brightness while preparing for the test. And here's a screenshot from the first race menu on all three phones. That's usually the case with iPhones, so let's move forward to the first race to compare other things. I see the same graphics quality and effects across the board. The 16 Pro Max has an impressive screen sharing performance which is miles ahead the competition, while the S25 Ultra and the Pixel 10 Pro XL were barely moving, which is always the case. And now let's fast forward to the next checkpoint that took place at the 4 minutes mark. The S25 Ultra started to slowly drop the brightness, which is hardly noticeable. Other than this, the game is still running smoothly on all three phones, and the 16 Pro Max is still leading the screen sharing performance, so let's keep going. Shortly after, at the 7 minutes and 55 seconds mark, the 16 Pro Max had a big brightness drop to be the darkest, followed by the S25 Ultra that had its first brightness drop at the 4 minutes mark, while the 10 Pro XL is still holding up. Other than this, no change. Things are about the same as the last checkpoint. But things didn't stay the same for long. The 10 Pro XL started to drop frames at the 9 minutes mark, so the game performance wasn't as smooth as the other two phones. While the brightness was a priority here, as it didn't decide to drop it just yet. But 2 minutes later, the 10 Pro XL decided to drop the brightness for the first time at the 11 minutes and 3 seconds mark. But it's still the brightest, followed by the S25 Ultra, and the 16 Pro Max comes last, and the performance was about the same as the last checkpoint. The next event took place at the 13 minutes and 5 seconds mark when the S25 Ultra decided to slightly dim the display one more time. However, the brightness ranking is still the same. The 10 Pro XL is first, followed by the S25 Ultra, and the 16 Pro Max comes third. The 10 Pro XL couldn't hold the crown for long, and after 13 minutes and 51 seconds it had another brightness drop to be about the same as the S25 Ultra, and both were slightly brighter than the iPhone, which is still the best in the screen sharing performance. Starting this point, no more brightness drop and all phones remained consistent. In contrast, the gaming performance started to change. After 17 minutes and 44 seconds, the 16 Pro Max started to drop frames and the FPS was not as high as before. But it's still performing better than the 10 Pro XL, plus it has the best screen sharing performance. The S25 Ultra had the best gaming experience at this stage with the same poor screen sharing as the 10 Pro XL. So let's fast forward a bit more to show you another example on how each phone performs. After 22 minutes, things started to get worse with the 16 Pro Max to match the 10 Pro XL in the gaming performance, while the S25 Ultra was flying with no issues, and this what surprised me. The S25 Ultra never performed that well in this test with One UI 7, plus it never won either. But it seems like One UI 8 is so much better, and I'm curious to see if it will finally make it till the end, so let's keep going. And here you go. The 10 Pro XL failed after 27 minutes and 42 seconds, it dropped the data connection, the screen sharing stopped, and the game became very laggy. It was only 2 minutes and 18 seconds away from winning, which is a bummer. I expected Tensor G5 to perform a lot better than this. It's manufactured by TSMC using the same 3nm fabrication used in the A18 Pro chip, but unfortunately it couldn't make it. Maybe Google needs some time to optimize the software, or they designed the chip in a way that will never give the edge to Pixel phones, no matter who does the manufacturing process. And when it comes to efficiency, it lost 15% battery, which is not great either. Let me pause for a minute and show you the 9 Pro XL numbers in the same test when I first got it. It lost the same 15% battery, plus it finished the whole 30 minutes with no crashes, which makes Tensor G5 worse. Plus the 10 Pro XL has a 5200 mAh battery, which is 200 mAh more than the 9 Pro XL, which is crazy. I will redo this test after the stable release of One UI 8 and iOS 26 to give Google some time to optimize the software to see if things will change. Back to the test, the temperature maxed out at 48.4 degrees Celsius, which is also about the same as the 9 Pro XL. Unfortunately, what we waited for didn't happen, so let's put the 10 Pro XL aside for now and get back to the other two phones which made it till the end. And here's a final look at the performance before wrapping up. The S25 Ultra has the best gaming performance, while the 16 Pro Max is the screen sharing king. Now the 30 minutes are over. Starting with the battery, the S25 Ultra consumed 13%, while the 16 Pro Max consumed only 10%. Temperature-wise, the S25 Ultra maxed out at 44.4 degrees Celsius, but while measuring the 16 Pro Max for some reason, my thermometer gone crazy and kept jumping between the numbers. But the most reliable reading I got was 45.6 degrees, and now let's sum up the numbers. Both the 16 Pro Max and the S25 Ultra did finish the whole 30 minutes, while the 10 Pro XL failed after 27 minutes and 42 seconds. For the battery consumption, the 10 Pro XL comes last with 15% usage, followed by the S25 Ultra with 13%, and the 16 Pro Max is in the lead with 10%. The S25 Ultra had the best gameplay experience, followed by the 16 Pro Max, but they swapped places in the screen sharing, while the 10 Pro XL didn't win in any of them. In contrast, the 10 Pro XL brightness was the highest most of the time, followed by the S25 Ultra, and the 16 Pro Max comes third. In thermal management, the S25 Ultra took the lead with 44.4 degrees, followed by the 16 Pro Max at 45.6, and the 10 Pro XL comes last with 48.4. The game graphics and effects were the same across the board, but the S25 Ultra has the highest screen resolution, followed by the 10 Pro XL, and the 16 Pro Max is the lowest. For those who are curious about the difference between the 16 Pro Max and the S25 Ultra performance on the stable softwares versus the betas, here's a side-by-side comparison between the S25 Ultra on One UI 7 versus One UI 8. As you see, it's better in everything: the battery, performance, and thermals. And here's the same for the 16 Pro Max on iOS 18 versus iOS 26. By this, I'm done with my heavy workload test, and I'm curious to know what you think in the comments. Stay tuned for more Pixel 10 Pro XL videos, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified. But for now, thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.